We all know that the term must draft players doesn't mean these are guys that you do whatever you can to get onto your team at all costs. No, it means players that we really like. And I'll say this with all respect. Don't be a dummy. Don't be the guy that goes to this channel or any other channel and sees this video and goes, okay, must draft players, must have players. I'm going to move them from 58 to 19 on my draft board and make sure that I get them. It doesn't matter if it's in the second round. No, none of that. But I'm Dave Loughran. I got 5 of them for you today. Must have players, players that you should do anything, even if it means taking them number 1 overall ahead of Jonathan Taylor to land on your team. Now, it's players that we like. Circle them on your draft board and let's try and land them. Let's get into it. Number 5, Nicholas Chubb. I'm sure a lot of people are looking at the Deshaun Watson news, only suspended 6 games. And we'll get into the politics of that and focusing on the Browns pass catchers like Amari Cooper. That's where the focus is right now. But if you're not seeing what this does for Nick Chubb, you might be blind, especially considering this guy's being drafted outside of the second round on Underdog Fantasy right now as the 13th running back off the board. You have Pro Football Focus, who has the Browns' offensive line ranked second in the entire NFL. They run block at an elite level. They pass block really well. And now they're going to have an elite quarterback for nearly 2/3 of the season. Now, caveat here, that is assuming that the NFL doesn't appeal the decision on Watson's 6-game suspension. Personally, and I'm making this video within that 3-day window that they have to do this, I don't think they will, because the NFL and the NFL Players Association have agreed to have an arbiter, right, to make these decisions. In this case, retired federal judge Sue Robinson, and that would make it appear as if the NFL is undermining her decision. So right now, I'm assuming they don't. But get this, the Browns' first 6 games come against the Panthers, the Jets, the Steelers, the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Patriots. Chubb in the 3rd round with that schedule to start the season, where the Browns will simply look to run the ball 30+ times every single week. He averaged 18 touches per game last year, and now we'll probably see more than that in the first 6 weeks and more efficient touches in the final 2/3 of the season when Watson returns. And when Watson debuts, they won't run quite as much as they did early on. I get that. But the Browns offense is going to be humming. I don't see how they won't. They have a great offensive line. They're going to be in scoring situations way more often, which is just going to bolster Nick Chubb's red zone work and his subsequent touchdown totals. So outside of his total lack of involvement in the passing game, I can't think of any reason not to love Chubb in the early 3rd, late 2nd round, now that it looks like Watson's only getting 6. Number 4, Courtland Sutton. When there's a quarterback battle every summer in training camp, it's probably not a great sign for receivers on that football team. Courtland Sutton's literally never played with a competent quarterback, at least not at the time that they were playing with Courtland Sutton, until now. You go from Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, who last year were rock bottom in deep ball accuracy, to Russell Wilson, who every year for nearly a decade has led the league or been among the league leaders in deep ball touchdowns. In 2019, Wilson supported 2 top 9 receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And then again last year, despite clearly playing hurt for a decent stretch of the year, he lifted those same 2 receivers to top 13 finishes. I'm personally thoroughly enamored with the upside for Sutton this season. When you think about what he can accomplish as both a deep threat and a hulking 6'4", 215-pound force in the red zone and in the end zone. And let's not forget that in his 2nd year, Sutton finished with over 1,100 yards and 6 scores with Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, and Brandon Allen as his quarterbacks. He was the wide receiver 19 that year on a Broncos team that finished dead last in passing touchdowns, 28th in passing yards, and 28th in total offense. Let that sink in for a second. And now that it's sunken in, go draft this guy everywhere. Gonna be a big year from old Courtland Sutton. And hey, a quick update here because this literally just happened as I was writing about Sutton and getting ready to record this video. Tim Patrick just got carted off the field in Denver on a non-contact injury after coming down with a nice grab. This guy just inked a 3-year, $34 million deal with the Broncos and is, or was, I don't know, expected to play a big role in the offense this year. Denver has plenty of capable weapons in the passing game, but losing Patrick would be a huge hit. And while in the spirit of being tactful, I don't want to pounce on this while the body's still warm, so to speak, but I'm here to talk about fantasy implications, and that's what I'm going to do. So here it is. If Patrick is out for an extended period of time or for the season, it will significantly bolster the fantasy value of both Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, while KJ Hamler will become insanely viable in the later rounds. So keep a very close eye on this one. If you haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy, it is clearly the best place to play best ball. I don't think there's any debates at this point anymore. Most of you guys have already signed up here. Matter of fact, the guy who won the $1 million last year drafted his team in June, and he was a good friend of the channel and viewer of the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. What's going on, brother? When you sign up, use the promo code Stokastic. You have to use the promo code Stokastic, Stokastic. Get up to $100 match deposit bonus. They have monster prize pools, $10 million in prize money in the Best Ball Mania 3 right now. Even the regular season winner gets $1 million. You could shit the bed in the playoffs, still $1 million. And you got some smaller ones, $5 entry, $100,000 prize pools. Use the promo code Stokastic, Stokastic. Get up to $100 deposit bonus when you sign up over at UnderdogFantasy.com. Number 3, Breece Hall. Breece Hall is what you might call a freak. It isn't just the size or agility or speed, footwork, vision, patience, or any of the other intangibles that are found in an elite NFL running back. It's all of them. Hall has all of the tools to become a dominant running back in this league. And the only thing standing in front of him is Michael Carter? Come on now. No disrespect to Carter, but he's a 5'8", fourth-round draft pick. And he performed admirably as a rookie on a dog shit offense, but he's not a game changer. You want game changers, and that's exactly what Hall can be in this backfield. That's why the Jets took him as the first running back off the board at 36 overall. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Let's go to Denver, where you had a somewhat decorated incumbent veteran in Melvin Gordon. It was not really a huge surprise that he split work on the ground with Javonte Williams in his rookie season. And there's plenty more examples of exciting rookie running backs not getting the lion's share of carries until year 2. But when Michael Carter is the guy ahead of you, it's really only a matter of time before Hall's just too productive not to be that guy. Unless Michael Carter's way better than I ever imagined, then he's going to come ripping out of the gates and shock all of us. I don't think that'll be the case, though. And we shouldn't sleep on the Jets' offensive line either. They have the talent to be very, very good if they remain healthy. So I won't just be satisfied with Hall if I land him in the middle of the 4th round. I'll actively be trying to get him on as many teams as possible, even if that means drafting him in the early 1st. I'm kidding. But in the 4th round, it's a real nice spot for Breece Hall. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. Elite offensive line, check. Elite rushing upside, check. One of the highest floors of any quarterback because of that rushing upside, check. Bolstered group of pass catchers, check. Literally nowhere to go but up as a passer, also check. Hurts has what PFF ranks as the number 1 offensive line in football. He led all quarterbacks in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns last year, the last one by a mile, and only played 15 games. Now, he was quite dreadful as a passer, let's not lie. But it's not like he can get any worse. And he was still the QB6 in the games that he played and was first in fantasy points per dropback in those games. Obviously, that's a bit skewed because the Eagles ran a shit ton of the time. But considering they just gave A.J. Brown a lot of money, we should see more balance this year. We should also expect better passing numbers from Hurts now that he has Brown, who is an outright monster in getting yards after the catch. They're currently calling it a running back with the ball in his hands in Eagles training camp. And you have Devonta Smith entering his 2nd year, and he's one of the smoothest route runners in the league who can clearly create separation. There's a very high floor and, a high ceiling for Hurts this year as well. And you're not going to have to spend the top 3 draft pick to get a dual threat quarterback. You can wait till the mid-60s. And finally, number 1, Deebo Samuel. Samuel's locked in, baby. 3-year, $71 million contract seems decent. $58 million in guaranteed money sounds pretty good on top of that too. Oh, and did you know there's rushing yards and rushing touchdowns incentives in this contract? Yep. Samuel had a true unicorn season at wide receiver last year. When do you see a dude go for 1,400 receiving yards, 365 rushing yards, but have more rushing touchdowns, 8, than receiving touchdowns with 6? Just outright bonkers. But I don't care where the production comes from, and really neither should you. Now, it'd be different if Samuel was used more as a rusher than a receiver. We wouldn't want that because the targets are worth exponentially more than carries. But the fact that he had 121 targets and 59 carries places him in almost uncharted territory when you think about the week-to-week floor and ceiling of a guy like this. Now, allow me to elaborate. Samuel had 9 touchdowns in the red zone last year, 5 as a rusher, 4 as a receiver. He had 14 carries in the red zone alone. And honestly, if you just give him the ball, good things are going to happen. Like a league-leading 18.2 yards per reception among all receivers with at least 50 targets, or an absolutely stupid 10.2 yards per reception, which also led the league. And only Cooper Kupp averaged more yards per route run than Deebo Samuel last year. The best part, and the reason I want Samuel on my fantasy teams, is that even though he's playing with basically a rookie in Trey Lance at quarterback, Samuel is so good with the ball in his hands that it won't matter. Either Lance is awesome and Samuel dominates, or Lance is pedestrian and Samuel still dominates because he doesn't need a quarterback to make the plays for him. And clearly, if Lance is struggling, they're going to do everything they can to get Deebo Samuel the ball in space, in the backfield, whatever it is to pick up yards. A mid-second round pick for really the most versatile fantasy receiver in the game right now? Say no more, fellas. Appreciate you guys watching. As always, stick around for the next one. We got you covered all the way up and through drafting season right here on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. Peace.